Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on leaky gut. We're calling this "Gut on Fire: The Hidden Root of Chronic Inflammation, Brain Stress, and Health Challenges." I am your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty, and tonight we are going to dive deep into this concept of leaky gut. So, I'd like to welcome everyone because tonight is not just to talk about digestion. This is a conversation about why so many people feel like their symptoms are scattered all over the place. Anxiety, fatigue, bloating, constipation, skin issues, immune problems, hormone issues, brain fog, and even pain conditions. The big idea tonight is that these symptoms may not be random. They may be signals. And one of the most important places to start looking is the gut. So when I say gut on fire, I am talking about a hidden inflammatory process that can quietly influence the brain, the immune system, hormones, energy, and the way the body heals. Now, my goal is not to make you afraid of food or of symptoms. My goal is to help you understand your body more, is to help you to understand your body more clearly so that you can stop guessing and start asking better questions. So let's start with this image, the iceberg. What we see above the surface are symptoms: anxiety, fatigue, eczema, brain fog, blood sugar problems, gut issues, joint pain, focus challenges. But what sits below the surface is often the deeper biological process, the silent systemic inflammation. And this is why so many people chase symptoms for years. They try one thing for sleep, one thing for anxiety, one thing for digestion, one thing for skin, and one thing for pain. But if the root fire is still burning underneath it, then the symptoms keep on coming back. So tonight, I want you to listen through this lens. What if your symptoms are not the enemy? What if they are actually the clues? So, healing the gut is the non negotiable first step to systemic recovery. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that the gut is the only thing that matters. The body is very complex. Hormones matter, the nervous system matters, genetics matter, trauma matters, sleep matters, movement matters. But the gut is one of the primary places where the world outside meets the inside world. Food, toxins, bacteria, medications, stress, chemistry, and inflammatory triggers all interact with the gut lining. And if that barrier is irritated or damaged, the rest of the body has to respond. That is why the gut can become a central driver of systemic stress. So, systemic inflammation does not stay in one place, it travels through the whole web. This is why when one person can have digestive issues and anxiety, another can have eczema and joint pain. Another can have fatigue, headaches, and hormonal symptoms. The symptoms look unrelated, but the biology underneath may be very connected. See, the immune system talks to the brain, the gut talks to the immune system, and the nervous system talks to digestion. Hormones talk to blood sugar talks to inflammation. The body is not a collection of isolated parts, it is a very interconnected web. See, this is one of the main messages of this workshop. Different symptoms can come from the same root cause. That does not mean every symptom always comes from leaky gut, but it does mean that chronic gut inflammation is one of the most common upstream factors that can push the body into a state of chronic stress. So instead of asking what pill or supplement can I take for the symptom, the better question is, what is my body responding to? When I ask you that question, you move from symptom chasing to root cause thinking. And this is where this becomes really, really important. So let's look at these three questions. What if your child's anxiety is not just emotional? What if your fatigue is not just stress? What if your immune system is not simply weak, but it's overwhelmed? This is a huge shift. It gives people hope because it means that the body may not be broken. It may be overburdened. It may be responding to hidden stressors that you don't know about. For kids, it may look like focus challenges, meltdowns, constipation, sensory overload, sleep issues, or picky eating. For adults, it may look like fatigue, cravings, weight resistance, brain fog, hormone symptoms, joint pain, or skin flare ups. The gut is often the hidden source that ties these together. Now that we've identified that the gut is as a hidden source, let's look at what is actually happening inside of the gut lining. Now, the gut lining is only one cell layer thick, which makes it both incredibly efficient and incredibly vulnerable. Those epithelial cells are held together by tight junction proteins such as claudins, occludin, and zonula occludens proteins. Think of them as microscopic Velcro smart gates. They're not supposed to be sealed shut forever. They're supposed to regulate traffic intelligently. The problem begins when chronic stressors dysregulate those gates, allowing larger antigens, bacterial fragments, and inflammatory molecules to cross into immune territory. So, Alessio Fasano's work on zonulin actually helped establish that intestinal permeability is regulated by real biological pathways, not just a vague Wallace concept. Zonulin signaling can influence tight junction opening and has been studied in immune mediated and inflammatory disease models. So the gut barrier is not a wall, it is an intelligent living filter. Now, your gut lining is supposed to act like an intelligent security gate. It's designed to let nutrients in while keeping toxins, pathogens, and large inflammatory particles out. The cells of the gut lining are connected by structures called tight junctions. When the barrier is healthy, those tight junctions behave like controlled doors. They open and close appropriately. But when the gut is inflamed, irritated, infected, and chemically stressed, or nutritionally depleted, that gate can become damaged. Now, that is what people commonly call leaky gut, or more technically, what we call increased intestinal permeability. The gate does not do its job as well, and the immune system gets exposed to things that it was not supposed to see in the first place. Now, when the barrier is breached, the immune system does not calmly ignore it. It responds because it is supposed to respond. One of the most important danger signals is what's called lipopolysaccharide, or LPS. It's a molecule found on the outer membrane of gram-negative bacteria. When LPS enters circulation, immune cells can recognize it through toll-like receptor 4, activating inflammatory pathways such as NFKB and increasing cytokines like TNF alpha, interleukin 1, interleukin 1 beta, and interleukin 6. Now, this is the physiology behind silent inflammation. The immune system is not randomly inflamed. It is reacting to microbial alarm signals that should have stayed inside the gut. So leaky gut can turn the immune system into a smoke detector that just keeps going off. Now, the slide shows the chain reaction. First, there's a breach. Particles such as bacterial fragments, toxins, and partially digested food components cross the gut barrier. Then comes the alarm. The immune system sees those particles and then responds. Then comes the fire. Now, if the alarm keeps getting triggered, the body can enter a state of chronic systemic inflammation. See, inflammation by itself is not bad. It is necessary for healing. The problem is unresolved inflammation. So when the body keeps receiving this signal that something is wrong, it stays on alert. That changes energy, hormones, mood, digestion, sleep, immune tolerance, and pain sensitivity. Now, leaky gut does not usually happen from just one thing. It is almost always cumulative. Diet, stress, toxins, medications, infections, and lifestyle factors all add up. Processed foods, sugars, seed oils, alcohol, low fiber diets, antibiotics, NSAIDs, chronic stress, poor sleep, mold, chemicals, dysbiosis, and constipation can all contribute to the breakdown of the gut barrier. The key phrase is what's called total load. The body can handle stress, but when stress stacks faster than the body can recover, the system starts to break down. So a stressed gut creates a stressed brain through several routes at once. There's immune signaling, vagus nerve signaling, microbial metabolites, blood sugar instability, and HPA axis stress hormones. This is why gut health is not just a digestive issue, it is a neuroimmune issue. So cytokines produced in response to gut-derived inflammation can influence the brain by signaling through the vagus nerve, which in turn affects endothelial cells at the blood-brain barrier and altering immune-brain communication. The result can look like brain fog, fatigue, irritability, anxiety, poor motivation, sleep disruption, or heightened pain sensitivity. Now we make the leap from gut to brain. A stressed gut can send inflammatory and neurological signals to the brain. That can contribute to anxiety, brain fog, poor focus, irritability, sleep disruption. Then the stressed brain feeds back into the gut. Stress chemistry changes digestion. It can reduce stomach acid, change motility, alter blood flow, and shift the microbiome. So the gut and brain can become locked in a loop. Gut inflammation stresses the brain, and brain stress worsens the gut. This is why healing must address both biology and nervous system regulation. To understand why this matters for mood, focus, and behavior, we need to understand the gut brain axis. The gut brain axis includes the enteric nervous system, which is in the gut, the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, endocrine system, microbiome, vagus nerve, and microbial metabolites. The vagus nerve is especially important because most vagal fibers are afferent, meaning they carry information from the body back to the brain. In other words, your brain is constantly sampling information from the gut. This matters clinically because the brain is not floating in isolation. It is constantly listening to immune signals, blood sugar signals, microbial signals, and autonomic signals coming from the body. So the brain is not just commanding the gut. The gut is constantly reporting back to the brain. So the gut-brain axis is the two-way communication system between the digestive tract and the brain. It involves the vagus nerve, immune molecules, hormones, neurotransmitters, and these microbial metabolites like we talked about. The gut can influence the brain through inflammation, blood sugar, nutrient absorption, microbial balance, and vagal signaling. The brain can influence the gut through stress responses, autonomic tone, motility, and digestive secretion. So when someone says it's all in your head, we definitely need to correct that. It is often it is not just in the head. It may be in the gut-brain communication system as well. Now, the vagus nerve helps create parasympathetic tone, digestive motility, heart rate variability, inflammatory reflexes, and communication between the gut and the brainstem. When gut inflammation increases, vagal signaling can very significantly change. When vagal tone is poor, digestion and inflammation regulation can become less efficient. This is why nervous system regulation is part of gut healing. This is also where chiropractic, breath work, sleep, movement, and stress regulation fit into the bigger picture. We're not just trying to change food. We are trying to shift the state of the nervous system so the gut can repair and the body can regulate inflammatory process more effectively. See, the vagus nerve is one of the major communication highways between the gut and the brain. It helps regulate all those things that we talked about, right? So heart rate, breathing, rhythm, immune signaling, parasympathetic nervous system. When vagal tone is healthy, the body can digest, rest, repair, and regulate. When the body is stuck in a chronic stress response, digestion often suffers directly. This is why gut healing is not just about food. We also need to ask, is the nervous system calm enough to digest, absorb, and heal? Now, neuroinflammation means inflammatory signaling affects the brain and the nervous system. The brain has immune cells that are called microglia. In a healthy state, microglia survey the brain, support repair, and help maintain neural networks. Under chronic inflammatory input, microglia can become primed or activated, making the brain far more reactive to stress. Peripheral inflammation, including inflammation triggered by LPS, has been shown in experimental models to increase inflammatory mediators inside of the brain. So clinically, this helps explain why gut and immune dysfunction can show up as cognitive fatigue, poor focus, emotional volatility, sleep issues, and stress intolerance. So the crux for this is a louder immune system can create a noisier brain. So when inflammation from the gut and the immune system becomes systemic, the brain can directly feel it. The brain has its own immune cells, like we talked about, these microglia. And when inflammatory signals are high, the microglia become heavily overactivated. Now, that does not mean that someone has a brain disease. It means the brain may be operating under inflammatory stress. This affects neurotransmitter balance, energy production, mood, focus, sensory processing, sleep, and so on. For patients, this often shows up as, I just don't feel like myself. For parents, it may show up as a child who is more reactive, more impulsive, more anxious, or even more dysregulated. Now, this slide is important because it shows why symptoms can persist. Step 1, gut inflammation begins. Step 2, the immune system sounds the alarm. And step 3, inflammatory signals affect the nervous system and the brain. Step 4, stress physiology feeds back into the gut. That loop can continue for months or years if no one identifies the source. This is why simply calming symptoms is not enough. We want to calm the body's alarm system and reduce the triggers that keep setting it off. This is also why testing can matter. It helps us to identify which part of the loop is the most active right now. So, when the gut brain axis is under stress, people may notice anxiety, panic, overstimulation, ADHD like focus issues, mood swings, irritability, sleep problems, or sensory challenges. In kids, this may show up behaviorally. They may not say, "My gut is inflamed and my nervous system is overwhelmed." They may melt down, avoid foods, crave carbs, struggle to sleep, become more aggressive, or seem constantly on edge. In adults, it may show up as brain fog, overwhelm, irritability, poor motivation, and feeling tired but wired. Point is not to label these as gut problems automatically. The point is to recognize the connection and then investigate. Now, let's apply this to families and patients who often need answers the most. So, we are not saying that leaky gut causes autism in this slide. Okay. We're not saying gut healing cures autism. What we are saying is that many children with autism and other neurodevelopmental challenges also have gastrointestinal symptoms, constipation, diarrhea, reflux, food sensitivities, dysbiosis, immune activation, or nutrient insufficiencies. The gut may not be the cause of the diagnosis, but it can be a major amplifier of biological stress on the nervous system. So, if a child's nervous system is already working hard to regulate sensory input, communication, sleep, and emotional control, gut derived inflammation or poor nutrient absorption can make that system work significantly harder. So, we are not treating a label. We are reducing the biological stress load on the child's nervous system. Because in many children with autism, ADHD, SPD, PANS, PANDAS type histories, and other neurodevelopmental struggles, we commonly see gut and immune patterns alongside the neurological symptoms. And these may include things like chronic constipation or diarrhea, abdominal pain, reflux, picky eating, food sensitivities, antibiotic history, yeast issues, immune activation, and inflammatory markers. And this is, again, this doesn't mean the gut causes autism. That is way too simplistic. But the gut can absolutely influence their comfort, sleep, behavior, sensory tolerance, attention, mood, and regulation. When the body is inflamed, the brain has a harder time functioning calmly. And that really is the main crux of this slide. Now, this slide shows the deeper mechanism microbiome imbalance, leaky gut, immune activation, and what it leads to is multi system dysfunction. When the microbiome is imbalanced, the gut lining may become more vulnerable. When the gut lining becomes permeable, the immune system gets exposed to inflammatory triggers. When the immune system is chronically activated, the brain, skin, joints, hormones, and energy systems can and will all be affected. This is why we care about constipation, food reactions, stool patterns, antibiotic history, and diet quality. They are not side notes, they are clues to the immune and neurological load on the body. Now, behavior is communication, right? In kids, especially in kids especially, behavior often tells us what the body cannot say with words. Focus issues may reflect cognitive control, attention span, and front brain regulation. Sensory challenges may reflect poor filtering, nervous system threat detection, and brain body awareness. Emotional regulation issues may reflect stress chemistry, inflammation, sleep disruption, blood sugar swings, and neurotransmitter imbalance. So, when a child is struggling, we do not want to just ask, "How do we stop the behavior?" We want to ask, "Well, what is driving the nervous system to feel unsafe, inflamed, overwhelmed, or out of balance?" See, once we understand behavior as communication, anxiety becomes easier to understand through a body based lens. So, in even anxiety is not only a top down brain issue, it can also be a bottom up body signal. Gut inflammation may affect anxiety through vagus nerve signaling, inflammatory cytokines, blood sugar instability, altered tryptophan metabolism, cortisol output, sleep disruption, and microbiome changes. Patient may feel anxious because the brain is receiving repeated threat signals from the body. This does not make the anxiety imaginary, it makes it physiological. And sometimes the brain is reacting to messages coming from the gut, immune system, and stress response system. So connected, you know, connected leaky gut inflammation to neurodevelopment, hormones, anxiety, skin, and pain is not really very hard. Like you look at this and you start saying, "Oh my gosh, these things make a lot of sense. How these can all be related?" Because the common belief is that anxiety starts in the brain. And sometimes that is true. But anxiety can also be driven or amplified dramatically by signals coming from the body. Gut serotonin metabolism, inflammation, blood sugar swings, nutrient deficiencies, dysbiosis, immune activation, and vagus nerve signaling can all influence emotional state. This is why some people feel anxious even when nothing is obviously wrong. Their brain may be responding to internal stress signals. When we calm the gut, stabilize the blood sugar, support nutrients, and regulate the nervous system, anxiety may become easier to manage because the body is no longer screaming danger from the inside. Now, hormones do not dysregulate in isolation. The gut influences hormones through inflammation, blood sugar, cortisol, thyroid conversion, liver detoxification, and bile flow, and estrogen metabolism. The microbiome can also contribute to estrogen processing through what researchers call the estrobolome, the collection of gut microbes involved in estrogen metabolism. So, if gut motility is slow, if dysbiosis is present, or if inflammation is high, hormone clearance can become less efficient. So, for some patients, that may contribute to PMS, heavy cycles, mood shifts, breast tenderness, acne, fatigue, weight loss resistance, or perimenopausal symptom intensity. Now, let's connect the gut to hormones. Hormones do not operate in this isolation, as we said. And the gut influences all of these things from estrogen metabolism, thyroid conversion, cortisol regulation, insulin sensitivity, inflammation. The gut microbiome also plays a role in how certain hormones are metabolized and cleared. If digestion is sluggish, constipation is present, the microbiome is imbalanced, hormone related symptoms may become dramatically worse. So, when someone has PMS, mood swings, fatigues, weight loss resistance, regular cycles, or low energy, we should not only look at hormones, we should look at gut function, inflammation, blood sugar, and nutrient status. So, blood sugar instability is one of the fastest ways to amplify the gut brain hormone loop. Blood sugar spikes increase oxidative stress and inflammatory signaling. Blood sugar crashes can trigger cortisol and adrenaline to keep glucose available for the brain. That can feel like anxiety, irritability, shakiness, cravings, waking at night, or afternoon crashes. This is why anti-inflammatory plans must include protein, fiber, healthy fats, and meal timing strategies that stabilize glucose and insulin. It's not just about gut comfort, it's about neuroendocrine regulation. Because this slide shows a cascade. Dietary intake influences digestion and the microbiome. Blood sugar swings affect insulin and cortisol. Cortisol and inflammation affect thyroid signaling, sex hormones, and metabolism. Chronic inflammation affects mitochondrial function, which then in turn affects energy production. This is why someone can feel stuck. They may be eating less and exercising more, but if the gut is chronically inflamed, blood sugar is unstable, sleep is poor, and stress chemistry is very high, the body may strongly resist change. The solution is not punishment, it is regulation. Now, hormone imbalances may include fatigue, mood swings, weight issues, cravings, poor sleep, low motivation, headaches, cycle changes, and energy crashes. Key line here is that hormones depend on gut health. If inflammation is high, nutrients are low, blood sugar is unstable, and the gut barrier is stressed, hormones will often reflect that stress. So when we build a plan, we do not just chase the hormones, we ask, what environments are those hormones living in? Now, let's move from hormones into the immune system where the gut plays one of its biggest roles. A modern way to think about autoimmunity is the interaction of genetic susceptibility, environmental triggers, immune dysregulation, and barrier dysfunction. Increased intestinal permeability may expose the immune system to antigens in a way that increase immune activation in susceptible people. The immune system may not be broken at all. It may be overexposed, overactivated, and underregulated. This is why we have to look at gut health, vitamin D levels, omega 3 status, blood sugar, sleep, stress, infections, and inflammatory markers when someone has autoimmune patterns. And a huge percentage of immune activity is associated with the gut. And this makes sense because the gut has to constantly decide what is safe and what is threatening. If the gut barrier is compromised, the immune system can become chronically activated. Over time, this may contribute to allergies, food sensitivities, frequent illnesses, inflammation, and autoimmune tendencies. Again, the immune system is not broken, it's reacting. The question is, what is it reacting to and why does it not feel safe? So, when immune activation persists, we may see exaggerated reactions to environmental triggers, seasonal allergies, chemical sensitivities, food reactions, histamine issues, and inflammatory flares. In autoimmune patterns, the immune system can begin targeting self tissue. This is complex and involves genetics, environment, infection history, permeability of the gut, toxins, stress, and immune regulation, all of them together. The key takeaway is that immune systems are in no way, shape, or form random. They often reflect a body that has been exposed to too many inflammatory triggers for way too long. The skin and gut communicate through immune signaling, microbial metabolites, nutrient status, detoxification pathways, and systemic inflammation. So when you see things like eczema, acne, rashes, and hives are not always purely skin problems. The skin is often where internal inflammation becomes visible. This is why topical approaches can help symptoms, but if the inflammatory load remains high internally, the problem will just return over and over and over again. See, the skin is often the reflection of inside inflammation. Eczema, acne, rashes, hives, flushing, and itchy skin can all have gut and immune connections. The gut skin axis involves inflammation, microbial imbalances, detoxification, histamine, food sensitivity, and immune regulation. Super complex. So, if the skin is constantly flaring, we do not only want to suppress the symptoms, we want to ask, what is the body trying to push out or react to? What is driving the inflammatory signal underneath? When you look at pain and inflammation can amplify pain by sensitizing peripheral nerves and central pain pathways. Cytokines can lower the threshold for pain signaling, making normal stress feel more intense. And this is why chronic pain is not always structural. Structure matters, of course, but systemic inflammation can turn up the volume on pain perception dramatically. So, inflammation does not just create pain, it can make the nervous system more sensitive to pain. Because chronic pain is not always purely structural, right? There's so many different reasons. And of course, injuries, arthritis, disc problems, posture, movement patterns do matter. But systemic inflammation can dramatically amplify how sensitive you are to pain. And inflammatory cytokines can sensitize nerves. They can lower the pain threshold. They can make old injuries feel worse, make the body feel achy or stiff. So when someone has widespread pain, recurring flares, or soreness that seems disproportionate, we should ask about inflammation and gut health and sleep and stress and nutrition, blood sugar, and the recovery capacity. Because you have to look at this and say, well, what's causing this? It's just a total perfect storm. And this slide brings us back into the perfect storm concept that we talked about in other places. Diet, stress, toxins, medications, and systemic breakdown. Most people want it to be one villain. They want to know if it's gluten or dairy or sugar or stress or mold or antibiotics or genetics. But usually the answer is this: it's the stack. Gut healing begins by reducing the load. And guys, we don't need perfection. We need direction. We remove the biggest stressors, support the weakest systems, and measure what matters here. Because here, we are identifying the sources of dysfunction. And really, it comes down to basic things, right? Refined carbohydrates can drive blood sugar spikes. A high omega 6 to low omega 3 pattern can promote inflammatory signaling and creates this imbalance. Chronic HPA axis activation can raise stress chemistry. Gut microbiota disruption can impair immune and metabolic balance. And this is the reason testing and history matter so much. If we know the source, we can target the plan. If we guess, we waste time, money, and energy. And the goal is not to make everyone follow the same protocol. The goal is simply to identify what your body specifically needs so we're not chasing things. So this matrix helps people see the pattern. Brain symptoms may include brain fog, anxiety, focus issues, and memory slips. Digestive systems may include bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and food sensitivity. Energy symptoms may include things like chronic fatigue, crashes, poor stress tolerance, and exercise intolerance. Immune symptoms may include frequent illness, autoimmune tendencies, allergies, and even skin rashes. The point is simple. The symptoms may be connected. They're clues. When we map them across systems, we can start to see the underlying pattern. And the thing of it is that testing matters because symptoms overlap. Bloating could be dysbiosis, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, constipation, low stomach acid, food sensitivity, pancreatic insufficiency, stress physiology, or poor bile flow. Fatigue could be anemia, low vitamin D, thyroid patterns, blood sugar swings, inflammation, sleep disruption, or mitochondrial stress. Testing helps separate possibilities instead of guessing. And this is one of the most important turning points in the presentation. Most people guess. They guess which diet to follow. They guess which supplements to take. They guess which food is bothering them. They guess whether they need probiotics. But guessing ultimately creates frustration. Testing creates direction. So if your gut is on fire, we want to know why. Is it dysbiosis? Is it food sensitivity? Is it your blood sugar? Is it nutrient deficiencies? Is it underlying systemic inflammation? Is it constipation, hormonal stress? Is it a combination? You simply can't fix what you don't measure. So, how do we stop guessing? We use a diagnostic roadmap. A useful testing roadmap may include inflammatory markers such as high sensitivity CRP and ESR, blood sugar markers such as fasting glucose, hemoglobin A1C, fasting insulin, and sometimes C peptide, nutrient markers such as vitamin D, B12, folate, iron and ferritin, thyroid markers, celiac screening when appropriate, stool testing for microbiome and pathogens, and food sensitivity testing when the clinical history supports it. The goal is not to order every test for everyone. The goal is to match testing to the story. And the diagnostic roadmap is simply not about every test. It's about choosing the right test based upon your story. So for some people, stool testing helps reveal digestive dysfunction, inflammation, microbiome balance, and possible pathogens. For others, blood markers help reveal systemic inflammation, blood sugar patterns, nutrient status, thyroid function, immune markers, or anemia patterns. For others, food sensitivity testing can help identify immune reactions that are keeping the system irritated. The test should match the question. So this slide is intentionally blunt. Most people guess. They try random probiotics, random cleanses, random elimination diets, and random supplement stacks. And sometimes they get lucky, quite honestly. But many times they feel worse or they quit too soon before they see results or spend a lot of money without clarity. The better path is to ask, what do we actually need to know? If we suspect microbial imbalance, stool testing may matter. If we suspect inflammation and blood sugar problems, blood work may matter. If we suspect immune food reactions, then food sensitivity testing really may matter. Blood markers help us to understand systemic stress. CRP can reflect inflammation in the body. A1C gives us a longer term view of blood sugar exposure. Fasting insulin can reveal early insulin resistance before glucose looks abnormal. Excuse me. We may also look at the CBC, the CMP, thyroid markers, iron and ferritin, vitamin D, B12, folate, and other markers depending upon the person. Blood work does not show everything, but it gives us a powerful snapshot of how the body is handling inflammation, metabolism, nutrients, and stress. You see, nutrients are the raw materials of healing. Vitamin D supports immune regulation. B vitamins support methylation, energy, and nervous system function. Iron and ferritin matter for oxygen delivery and energy. Magnesium supports hundreds of reactions, including relaxation, motility, and blood sugar regulation. A person can eat well and still be depleted if digestion is poor, inflammation is high, or the microbiome is imbalanced. See, this is why we do not only ask, what are you eating? We ask, are you absorbing and using it? See, things like food sensitivity is not the same as a classic allergy test. It is used to identify delayed immune reactions that may keep the gut and immune system irritated. And this can be super helpful when someone has chronic symptoms and cannot figure out what foods are triggering them. But it should not be used as a standalone answer. It is one part of the bigger picture. The goal is not to create fear or eliminate foods forever. The goal is to reduce immune irritation while we rebuild the gut, improve digestion, and restore resilience. So here, the main point is testing gives us clarity, but healing still requires a rebuilding plan. So the four-pillar rebuilding model should be framed as remove inflammatory inputs, replace missing digestive and nutritional support, restore the microbiome and mucosal barrier, and regulate the nervous system. Many functional medicine models call this the 4R or 5R approach. The key for patients is that gut healing is a sequence, not a random pile of supplements. So the four pillars are going to be nutrition, supplements, lifestyle, and nervous system support. And this is important because gut healing is not a product, it's a process. It's not one probiotic, it's not one diet, it's not one lab test. A real plan asks, what do we remove? What do we replace? What do we repair? What do we regulate? What do we retest? That is how we move from chasing symptoms to rebuilding health. Because nutrition ultimately is the foundation. The goal is to embrace whole foods, increase fiber diversity, improve protein intake, stabilize blood sugar, reduce processed foods, and choose anti-inflammatory fats. This does not have to be overly complicated. Start with real food. Build meals first around protein and colorful plants, healthy fats, and fiber. Reduce blood sugar spikes. Replace ultra-processed snacks with nutrient-dense options. And for kids, we often need to move gradually. A picky eater, unfortunately, will not transform overnight. We start by improving the environment, adding tolerated nutrients, and slowly expanding variety. When discussing supplements, I want you to avoid presenting this as a one-size-fits-all protocol. I want you to think of this in a very different way. We have to look at these as categories. There are foundational nutrients such as vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, and iron when you're deficient, because not everyone is. Then there's microbiome supports such as probiotics or prebiotics when appropriate, barrier supports such as zinc carnosine, glutamine, collagen peptides, or polyphenols, and inflammatory modulation using omega-3s, curcumin, and antioxidant-rich foods. So supplements work best when they are matched to physiology, not chosen randomly from a symptom list. Because supplements can be usually helpful, but they work best when they're targeted. General gut support may include prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, glutamine, zinc, omega-3s, vitamin D, magnesium, or other nutrients depending upon the person. But I don't want people to walk away thinking I need to buy everything. That's not the point. The point is that supplements should support the plan. They should be chosen based on symptoms, history, and testing when possible. Otherwise, we are just guessing with expensive bottles. Lifestyle is where many plans succeed or fail ultimately. If your sleep is poor, your stress is high, and the nervous system is stuck in survival mode, the gut just has a hard time healing. Vagal tone directly affects this. So we have to prioritize sleep. We have to manage our stress better. We have to move your body appropriately. And that means like consistent movement throughout the course of every day. Get outside, especially now the weather's getting nicer. Build rhythm into the day. Reduce toxin exposure when you can in your environment, from your cleaning products to things you put on your body, so on and so forth. Create routines that signal safety to the nervous system. Healing is not only biochemical, it is behavioral and environmental too. Nervous system regulation matters because digestion is parasympathetic. If the body is living in sympathetic dominance, digestion becomes inefficient. Motility changes, stomach acids may be altered, and gut repair slows. This is why breath work, walking after meals, sleep, HRV support, chiropractic care, and reducing chronic stress are not side notes. They are part of the gut healing physiology. Because this is a section that many gut workshops totally miss. The gut needs a regulated nervous system to heal. Vagal tone, somatic awareness, breathing, safe movement, chirocare, and stress regulation can all support the shift from fight or flight into rest, digest, and repair. For kids, this may include predictable routines, movement breaks, deep pressures, breath work, outdoor play, sleep rhythms, and reducing overstimulation. For adults, this may include walking, breathing, prayer, journaling, strength training, chiropractic care, and reducing the constant sense of urgency. The body heals only when it feels safe. Now, let's set realistic expectations because true healing, guys, very much is a process. Healing takes time. Many people want a 3-day fix because they have been suffering for years. But if the gut has been inflamed for months or years, it needs consistent support. Some people notice changes in days, less bloating, better energy, improved bowel movements, fewer cravings. But for deeper repair, we have to think in weeks to months. See, the red line on this slide represents the ups and downs of chasing symptoms. The green line represents root cause healing. It may feel slower at first, but it's far more durable. It is consistency over perfection. So here's the roadmap. First, acknowledge that symptoms are signals, not random annoyances. Second, measure what matters so we can stop guessing. And third, personalize the plan based on the person's history, labs, symptoms, and goals. This is how we make care practical. We are not trying to overwhelm you with information. We are trying to give direction. The question is not, what is the perfect diet for everyone? The question is, what is the next right step for my biology? Now, let's begin the recap process. So first, symptoms are signals, they're not random. The gut is a systemic axis, not just the digestive tube. Foundational safety and root cause healing really matter. Testing removes guessing, and the gut is the non-negotiable first step to systemic recovery. If you remember one sentence, remember this: your body is not broken, it is responding. When we understand what it is responding to, we can begin to change the environment and change the outcome. So, guys, this is your call to action. You cannot fix what you do not measure. Functional testing gives you objective data, personalized care targets a plan. If tonight connected dots for you, the next step is not to go home and buy 10 supplements. The next step is to get clear. What is driving your symptoms? What does your blood work show? What does your gut history suggest? What patterns are showing up in your child or in your own body? Now, we would love to help you start your journey with clarity, not guesswork. So at this point, I'm going to invite each one of you to start thinking about, do you want to learn more? What are the questions and concerns that you have? And I simply want to close with this. Oh, I think we're missing a slide. Sorry about that. We'll stay here. I simply want to close with this. Your symptoms are not your identity. Your child's struggles are not the whole story. Your body was designed with an incredible capacity to heal and change when the right stressors are removed and the right support is added. Tonight was not about fear. It was about hope with a roadmap. So as we move into this next phase here, where we start thinking about what we want to do next, think about the one symptom you've been chasing the longest. Then ask a better question. What is my body trying to tell me? And what do we need to measure to find the source? Guys, I thank you so much for being here tonight. If you're sitting here thinking, that sounds like me or this sounds like my child, the next step is not guessing. The next step is to get objective information. So what I would say is, if you want to get more information, I would suggest you contact our office. If you are watching this online and you would like to learn more, whether you are local to the Cleveland, Ohio area where we are, or you're listening to this someplace else, you can just go to elitefamilychiros.com and request a consult, and we can set a time to talk further about your history and get appropriate blood work ordered based upon what your needs are. Because if you'd like help figuring out whether gut inflammation, blood sugar instability, nutrient deficiencies, immune activation, or nervous system stress need to be a part of your picture, talk with us. And this way here, we can start helping you to find out what is really necessary for you to get better, to improve your quality of life, or to improve your child's quality of life. I thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. I would love if when you're done watching this video, you would go into the Substack and leave me some comments. I would love your feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would like to learn more about. Because the ultimate goal of doing all of these workshops, all of these things is to help you to learn how to best take care of yourself so that you can dramatically improve your quality of life. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, and we'll see you soon.